As wildfires surrounded many suburbs around Halifax last summer, some residents found they only had one way to escape. The traffic jams and the chaos as thousands of people tried to follow evacuation orders and flee. Well, those are now leading to calls for City to equip more communities with a second route out. Joining us from Highland Park, Nova Scotia for a closer look is Martin Kenward. He's with the Tantallon Fire Life Safety Coalition. Welcome to your morning.
Thank you.
Let's talk specifically about your community, Highland Park. It was deeply affected by the wildfires back in May. Tell us, first of all, what was your experience like?
Yeah, I mean, it was May 28th. I was sitting outside, arguably the first nice day of the year, and I saw up in Westwood Hills, which is just slightly west of here, about 4.5 kilometers, some plumes of smoke. And it quickly accelerated because the weather that day was particularly windy, about 50 to 60 kilometer-an-hour winds. It quickly swept down the hill, and we left. My family and I left as quickly as we could. I was home that day, and it was, we were able to leave as quickly as possible. However, some other people that I know were not as lucky, and they had to come back into the community while the fire was raging to get their kids and family and children and pets and everything else. It was a pretty bad day.
It's chaotic, and then we saw some of those scenes and heard from people who were trapped on that road trying to get out, and you're desperate to flee, and then you're stuck because there's only one way out. There are 10 communities around Halifax that lack a second route, but even in the communities that do have one, they can be problematic. Can you delve into that a little more?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't really list all of the communities, but yeah, I think it's on the order of 10 or so. One big issue is it's kind of like akin to your home, right? You have more than one way of getting out. The term that people usually use is egress, which basically means safe emergency exits. And you can imagine that, having 10 communities with only one way in and one way out, and additionally spilling onto one major thoroughfare, which is Hammonds Plains Road, can lead to chaos at the best of times. And when something like this happens, and the emergency planning and the messaging and communication is poor at best, it just led to a lot of panic and a lot of people, and it was a harrowing experience. That's for sure.
And we know in worst case scenario, we've watched the story happen in BC and in Alberta, also in Nova Scotia, but in Alberta, tragically, it was on the escape routes that someone died because it was just so harrowing to try and get out. Back in 2016, Upper Tantallon was highlighted by Natural Resources Canada as being at extreme risk of wildfires, yet is also among the communities with limited exit points. How should escape routes be operating?
I think that's an excellent question, and that's the question that we're putting to the municipality, to the provincial government, and I think, the federal government also needs to get involved because, part of the Constitution really dictates that they should provide safe living spaces for people. That includes emergency egress. In the example that you're talking about, I think, is a study that was done in Westwood Hills, also in Highland Park, where they highlighted the fact that should there be an urban wildland fire, that it could be a very extreme risk, which ended up unfortunately being the case.
Martin, we reached out to the City of Halifax. This is what they sent back to us. A report on secondary egress routes, specifically for the community of, as you mentioned, Westwood Hills, is expected to go before Regional Council at the end of the month, November 28th. We are not able to speak to or provide information on the contents of the report prior to it going before Council for deliberation. What's your response?
That's not a very good response from the city, to be quite honest with you, because this issue is endemic across many of the communities which spill onto the same major thoroughfare, which should be the safe way for people to get out. I think there's been a lack of action. There's been a lot of talking, but we need the talking points to be turned into tangible action to help these communities feel safe when they return.
Yeah, there's been a lot of presentations and a lot of talk, but no actual routes created.
Yes.
Martin, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.